not just physical. But we want to see where your mind is. We want to make sure where your heart is. Because you never know what's happening with a person. So when you got checked, someone should have asked you, how are you doing? They should have had a smile on their face. Because it can be just a smile that will brighten up a person's day. Just asking them, how are you doing today? Can be that one thing that can take them and make them feel better about themselves. So you come up, you get checked, then you come into the sanctuary, the sisters sit on one side, the brothers sit on another side. Man, we keep running into this stuff in the nation. So, but the thing is, we are taught in Islam about the nature of the male and the female. Their natures are naturally attracted to one another. So if sister, you sitting next to this big, broad-shouldered brother who just did 100 push-ups before he came here, and you just happen to be moving in your chair and you rub up against them broad shoulders, and you're like, man, you kind of tight.
Come on.
Your mind is completely off the word. You ain't trying to hear nothing that Brother Willie has to say. Same thing with the brothers. You sitting next to these beautiful sisters, and she got on some nice perfume. She done, man, put all on her body, and man, she just smelling good, looking good, and you move up next to her, and you like, whoa. The word gone. You forgot what it's even saying. Where am I at? Because now you and I are thinking on, how can I get with them? You see? Now, we're not trying to stop your shine.
No.
We ain't trying to stop your shine. We just want you to hold it off for a couple hours, and then you do what you do after that. But I guarantee you that afterwards, you will have a different approach to the sister.
That's right.
See? The approach before hearing the word would have been one way, but after hearing the word, we're going to have to pull up our pants. Come on. We're going to have to get straight. And then be like, instead of, yo, we'll be like, how you doing, sister? See? Our whole demeanor will change. So we thank you. We appreciate you for coming. Very quickly, you came in, you don't see an American flag anywhere.
Not at all.
Because this is not America. I know what Childish Gambino said. That's America. This is not America. This is the nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
So you come in, you see this flag. This is your flag. Nobody else can wear this flag but you. This flag represents freedom, justice, and equality. Now you tell me any place you can go on the earth and receive true freedom, true justice, and true equality. The only place that that's being given is in the nation of Islam. And it belongs to you. So thank you once again, family. And I want to lead you as I came before you with the greeting words of peace of Islam Alaikum. And at this time, I want to bring up our sister. Of course, I got my pen. So it's time for me to go ahead and take some notes. But our sister's going to come up and give us some very timely information. And so she's always teaching on health, because the one thing that we can't control is our health.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes we neglect it, and it's to our own detriment.
Yes,
so the thing about it is, if you and I are alive today, then that's a day to get it right. We're not 6 feet under. So we should all be thanking God for allowing us to be here. So help me to welcome to the rostrum our sister, Sister Michelle Sadiq.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, I bear witness that there is only one God who came to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And I further bear witness that the Master Farad Muhammad took 3.5 years to raise up and teach one who we know as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And in those multiple or many things or plethora of things that he taught him, one of the things he taught him that has been given to us is how to eat to live. And I'm forever grateful for that because it gives us life and helps us to give life more abundantly.
Yes.
I further bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad saw one, a beautiful man who can help him to expand his breath. And he's living today and is here helping us to get it right. Just like Brother Lawrence said, we have one more day to get it right. And if it wasn't from him who rose up in the 70s to give more teachings to the black man and woman in America, I'm talking of none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And their beautiful names, I want to greet my beloved sisters and brothers in the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. How you doing?
Fine, ma'am.
It's so beautiful once again to come up and see your beautiful faces. I'm forever grateful for this opportunity. Once again, to be alive and to get it right. And as a part of my giving back, this is a part of that. And I don't know why I come before you every week, but I thank Allah for the opportunity, and I'm just going to take it in stride.
Yes, ma'am.
So this morning for the health talk, I was reading an article, and the article is going over another study that talks about daily aspirin may be harmful for healthy older adults. Now, how many of you have heard maybe your grandparents or your great-grandparents or your mothers being told to take one aspirin a day?
Yes. Yes. All right.
For decades, this has been going on.
That's right.
And they actually did a study that they are finding that it is not healthy for healthy adults to take an aspirin to prevent them from heart disease. So the current recommendation is what doctors is recommending right now is that any adult over the age of 50 that's at risk for cardiovascular disease and that may have high blood pressure or high cholesterol or have a history of smoking, that they should take one aspirin a day. So this study was conducted to see if that's actually true, to see if taking an aspirin a day actually prolongs the life. And so this study was done with 20,000 individuals. And the study found that there was actually no benefit. It said that they found really no health benefit for those people who took aspirin daily, and it was done over a 5-year period, and the people who did not take any aspirin. It actually found that those people who took aspirin had an increased risk of internal bleeding by 30%. They said that you actually putting people at risk when you would offer them aspirin, even if they have a moderate risk of having heart disease. So if you're healthy or even have a moderate risk of heart disease, it's no benefit for you to actually take that. So this is 2 highlights that I wanted to quote because I thought it was really interesting what they say when they do these studies. This is a quote from one of the researchers. We knew there would be an increased risk of bleeding with aspirin because there has always been. Listen to that. We knew there would be an increased risk of bleeding with aspirin because there has always been. So you're actually giving this to people when you knew that there was an increased risk. So they already knew that before they did the study. But then they said, but not only did it not decrease your risk of disability or death, it did not decrease the risk of heart attack and stroke. And there's an increased rate of death. Increase. It was a slight one. So they gave you a medicine, and for decades, we're not talking about 5 years, we're talking about decades. These people have been recommending this, and there's no benefit. But also, they found in the research that it's an increased risk of death. And this is something that doctors have been recommending and are still recommending. Let me go over another highlight of the study that I thought it was interesting. And this is something that was a surprise to the researchers. They said there was also an increase in cancer deaths in the aspirin-treated group, which surprised the researchers. There was a small increase in the number of deaths overall in the aspirin group, with the largest proportions of death due to cancer. It is possible, so they don't know if it's a direct cause, but it was something very surprising when they looked at all of the people in the study, those who had died. There was an increased risk of those who died from cancer with those who had aspirin. But brothers and sisters, this is something that's amazing to hear, that these people are actually doing this. And last week we talked about eating one meal a day and the fasting and the benefit that they have research now to actually support, that just eating one meal a day, it actually helps to prolong your life and extend the quality of your life. But who taught us this?
Right.
God himself taught us this a long time ago. So in How to Eat to Live, chapter 50, page 167, the title of the chapter is Medical Teaching Based on 3 Meals a Day. He says, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, this world of the white race has hundreds and thousands of ways to tell you and to teach you how to eat. Please do not take up their many ways of how to eat, lest you do not have but one way to soon perish. I love his teachings, because his wording, because it's like it's very clear, and you either take it or you let it alone. Ain't no sugarcoating in what he's teaching. He says, I give you what I have received from Allah God, who came in a person of Master Farah Muhammad. He said, I'm not getting it from this doctor that studied this from you. He said, this is coming from God. With the boldness of that. He said, to whom praises are due forever. He taught me that we eat one meal every 24 hours a day and nothing in between meals. He says, I have tried this. So he did his own research. I am one who has self-experience in this teaching, and I have tried this world's way of eating also. He says, eating one meal per day and nothing between meals, not even the drinking of milk, pops, or juices. You must not eat or drink anything between meals. You must keep your stomach regulated to that one meal, and when you drink enough water to digest that one meal, then do not drink any more water between meals. I love this. He says, pay no attention to your doctor that says you need 6 to 8 ounces of water with one meal per day. What he is telling you goes for 3 meals a day. All of their medical teachings and administering is based on a patient who eats 3 meals per day. And last sentence, and we know what kind of health and sickness we had under such way of eating.
That's right.
Isn't that beautiful, brothers and sisters?
Yes.
So we've been given a knowledge, we've been given a teaching that gives us life, and it's something very simple that we have to do. It requires discipline, but once you train your body to do it, it's very easy. Things don't phase you like it used to be doing. All praise is due to Allah. In April of this year, I went on this lifestyle change. What I'm doing is changing one thing about my bad eating and trying to stay consistent with it as long as possible. And what I did was I decided to get rid of refined sugar, and
That's right.
and that's my dear brother. He's working on it with me. All praise is due to Allah. And French fries, because I was a French fry head. So last night, and just recently, I noticed when people are eating chocolate, which I used to love chocolate, and ice cream and all of those things, it doesn't faze me. At one point, I'll be like sitting there like, ooh, I wish I could have it. But I sit there and it doesn't faze me. And brothers and sisters, I'm saying that because we're all striving to be upright. So take whatever it is in your life that you want to change and make a small change in your life and feel good about it. After you go over a certain period of time, it won't faze you. It's the same thing about one meal a day. Once you get in the motion or in the constant rigor daily activity, it doesn't faze you. People eating all around you, Christmas dinners, Thanksgiving dinners, all that stuff, it doesn't faze you. You have to change your body and turn it to live upright, just like we're doing spiritually.
Yes,
That's,
ma'am.
all right? All right.
Amen.
All praises to God. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, ma'am.
And I'm going to bring up my big brother, and I'm so happy to call him my big brother. You know, in the street sometimes they give the black man a bad name. They They want to say black man is this and white man is this. But I, as a woman, as a black woman, when I step in these doors, I have so much faith in belief in the black man, because there are so many examples of great black men in this house. And it's because of our teachers. And this brother has always, I've been in the nation for 20 years this year, and he's been here prior to me coming. I've always known him to be a representative of that, being a great, he treats black women well, and I thank God for him. So to help me, open up your ears, like Brother Lawrence says, get out your pen and your notebook. I'm pretty sure he's going to give us some good information. My big brother, Brother Gilbert.
In
the name of Allah, beneficent and merciful, bearing witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is indeed his messenger, I like to greet the people of God with the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
You know, when we say Assalamu alaikum, it's just basically a universal greeting in which we introduce the best of what we want for ourselves to each and every one of you.
Yes.
You know, so there's nothing greater than wishing somebody peace and blessings.
That's right.
So when we say it in Arabic, please don't get anybody who's not familiar with Arabic language. It's a language. It's one of our original languages.
That's right.
So you know, the brothers and sisters who grew up in the side of the church, you know, you're familiar with Jesus coming before the people and always greeting them with peace.
Right.
Peace be upon you. But Jesus, that we know, never spoke English.
That's right.
English is a new tongue. It's like it's a bastard language. It's not original to his father. So whenever time he came before them, he didn't speak in the same way I'm speaking to you colloquially, or like I'm from New Orleans, you know what I'm saying? The way we speak. Jesus never spoke those words.
That's right.
He spoke ancient Hebrew and Arabic.
That's right.
So when he came before his brothers and sisters, he would always say Assalamu alaikum. So it's good that you would get more acquainted with yourself.
That's right.
So when we come into the Nation of Islam, we're coming into a place where we want you to feel comfortable in knowing that this is your original home.
Right.
This is not something made up so you know you can follow a particular person or nothing. It's nothing like that.
Right.
This is founded in the Creator Himself.
That's right.
So I'm coming before you in my small. I felt honored coming after Sister Michonne. I really did. And thank you for those kind words. I like to be known as a person that respects women,
Yes, sir.
but also a brother that also respects my brothers as well.
That's right.
I was asked to come before you today to speak on a topic that I have some experience with. But on this topic, I want you to know I'm not the author of absolute truth. And if you listen to me, I want to do a little, that's how they say the announcement first, to let you know disclosure. I'm giving you the best of what I've been given or gained from my experience.
Right, sir.
And also my following of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was asked to speak to you about blended family. And I love my brother. I love my brother Minister Willie.
Yes,
Willie. You know, he has a way of putting things on you.
Right.
And you just go on and you catch in a moment where you ain't even expecting and you can't say no, you know.
Right, right.
So you just gotta go on and just swallow it and pray to Allah bless you with the as a result. But I wanted to deal with the aspect of blend. When we think about the word blend, the definition according to Webster is a mix of a substance. To mix a substance with another substance, so that they combine together as a mass. I want you to think about this. To mix a substance with another substance so that they combine together as a mass. So we are taught, there's a thing called blended family. This is a real thing.
Yes.
So it says the definition of a blended family is a family consisting of a couple and their children from their present marriage and also the previous marriages. combined. Now, in looking up this subject, we must know that, statistically, 50% of the families, 50% of families are blended families. 50% of marriages are of blended families. And 60% of blended families end in divorce. Now, we know that we in the Nation of Islam, we do not love divorce.
That's right. Come on.
We're taught in the Holy Quran that Allah hates divorce.
That's right.
Like, there's nothing really good that comes from a divorce. I know you be like, well, you don't know my ex. You don't know my ex. It was good. I got rid of that one. I know that's how some of us think.
Go ahead.
But in truth, when you're dealing with children, it brings a whole nother consequence that comes into the play. That in truth, you start to understand why Allah hates divorce. So in this mosque, I can say that we push and promote healthy families.
Yes, yes.
So, in understanding that, okay, now this is a problem on a overall in the nation, and overall in the world. Okay, how can we prevent this from happening in our lives? And a lot of times, with things of importance, we have a tendency to take things for granted. You know, when we go and buy this new car, a lot of us, we just take the car, as soon as we get it, it depends on how much the car costs. You know
That's
what I'm talking about? If the car is a $500 car, $1,000 car, you just get it and you just like, you make a lot of noise, you ain't really trying, you just happen to just be in that sucker, right? But if you pay a lot of money for a car, you kind of want to make sure you put the proper gas in.
That's right.
You do the little meticulous things to make sure that it's running correctly.
Yes.
So that you will be successful in operating this expensive vehicle. Is that right?
Yes.
But when we're dealing with marriage, there is no car that equates to a marriage. Oh, this is some real life living type of stuff here. You can't just read this manual and then you go in this marriage and like, I got this thing. I know that's how we feel sometimes. But marriage is one of those things when you in that ring. You know, they talked about, Mr. Farrakhan said, Honorable Mr. Farrakhan said that it's not the fighting that gets the boxer in trouble, it's when he can't see the punch. See, you can see the punch, but when the one comes that you can't see, ooh, it hits you hard. So when we talk about blended families, we are actually getting into something that we really don't really know what we're getting into. We can study it, but the best and the wisest of us will try to take the proper precautions to make sure that we're trying our best to follow wisdom and guidance and going into something like that. All right, so blending, and this is another thing too. You know, blending sounds easy, sounds smooth. Like you just get into this thing and it's gonna be smooth sailing. Cause I got the teaching, she got the teachers. Boom, we gonna be all our books. We gonna follow the course. But it don't always operate that easily because you're dealing with individuals who have hurt. You have children who have particular hurt. There's certain challenges that affect that blending smooth. I want to talk about 3 challenges, hopefully, if we have time. If not, it's fine. We can get to it another time. But one of the challenges, our unrealistic expectations of the spouse. You see, marriage is a union between 2 people. And it's to bring that 2 people to a oneness. Not 1.5. It's not a fragment of the one. Not half of the one. But when you're talking about bringing a person to oneness, you mean you're taking that whole product. And sometimes individuals don't come with themselves. They come with other siblings. They come with children. Male and female. So that means you're not just taking on that person. See, I'm gonna marry you. I ain't marrying the children. You can take them to. I know that's how you think. We got a lot of stuff going. We got some disrespect sometimes. Sometimes we get there. You know, I've been there. But you have to, honestly, in a situation like that, you have to be humble enough to take your ego out and realize you're dealing with somebody who's already been raised to some degree.
Yes. Look at that.
And when I say expectations of the spouse, a lot of times the spouse would expect the non-biological parent to be automatically just go in and be that role model for that other person. I want you to go and you raise them like you raise your other. And just treat them the same. Just go ahead on and just give them same thing we do in the house. Just go ahead, but it's not always that simple.
Come on, teach.
You cannot expect the biological or the non-biological parent to enforce discipline the same as you on the child that they don't have any experience with. I know it seems like, man, that's just true. In my house, everybody gonna come under my umbrella. I get it, man. I've been there. But that's not wise. That's not wise. I'm telling you, some of these things I've made mistakes on.
Right.
So when I look back at it and I understand that I had to build roots.
That's right.
You see, the biological parent has roots with the child.
That's right.
And at times we have a tendency to think, okay, well, you should love my children. If you love me, you should. No, it don't work like that automatically.
Teach.
They have committed to you.
Teach.
And they may love you because you've been courting this person, but they haven't been courting your child like that.
Go ahead.
And your child don't know them like that.
So true.
So they have to build a relationship.
Right.
That's right.
They have to build roots where they actually trust
That's right.
that that other person loves them,
Oh.
so that they can accept discipline from them like that. See, it's a science to it, but you got to understand, in relationships, that's how we operate. You have what you call in the interrogation room, they catch a so-called criminal. You got the good guy, the good cop, and the bad cop. The good cop could get certain things out of the person that the bad cop can't get. But the bad cop can scare that person and make them get right. But the good cop somewhat makes the person have a conscience. You see, when you have parents and they come into the home and they're new, it's better for the non-biological parent to play the role of that loving hand, of that counselor. I'm just telling you. Because ultimately, if the roots are not there, a child can feel like this. Excuse me, this Negro is hitting on me, or this person, she don't know me, and who she thinks she is hitting on, or doing this, or spanking, or whatever, and they don't have the natural bond that comes after time. So it's usually the first 2 years of a marriage, well, we struggle with that. Because in our courtship, we're not taking the necessary precautions, and we're not really taking that subject serious. Another challenge that comes in. How's everybody doing?
Fine, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. With discipline, it's always good to have a good rapport with the child's father or mother. It helps. I know it's not going to always be the case, but if you can establish a relationship with that child's parent, who's not, they may be living with you, but you still have a relationship with them.
Right.
Where the children know that you and them are on the same accord. The children will have a better foundation of actually following what you say. They would make you feel more comfortable. Because remember, they're in transition.
Right. Yes.
Some of these children in the back of their mind, they still want you to be with their biological father or mother. So they may cause division. When you exactly this, they cause division partly because they've never really been healed. And one of the things you have to understand is that, yes, children who come from a hurt marriage, they hurt. They're impaired.
That's right.
But children who see a healed marriage become healed.
Yes.
So you are actually changing the course of these children by how you and your spouse get along. So the third phase I want to deal with, just to keep it brief, I'm trying to be as brief as I can, is unity between the two. Unity between the couples is very important because as I talked about earlier, children who are hurt, they have a way of acting out that may cause division. They're watching to see if parents are on the same accord. And if you're not on the same accord, they find that gap. They're like water. As soon as you open the door, oh, they go that way. My daughter is very wise with this. I got a 5-year-old that's so, oh my God. She comes, she says her butter up. Oh, Daddy, you the fun parent.
Oh, okay.
You the fun parent. I wish Mama could be fun like you, Dad. Dad, can we go to the such and such, such and such? Just ask Mom the same thing. But she finding my soft spot, right?
Right.
And she's good. She studied the science of the fact of the matter is Daddy do have a soft spot for this girl. So children who from blended families, they also see this. Remember, they have already established a relationship with their parent already. They already know that how to come to them and ask them for certain things. And when they can ask them and the parents do this consistent with it, yes. But when they get married, all of a sudden it changes. They know you gotta wait, hold up. Instead of answering, hold up 1 second and go talk to your husband. But that's the way it should be. They should see parents united and coming together regardless of what the circumstances is and supporting one another in the way that we discipline. Now there's more to it. We may get to it next time.
Yes, sir.
But just one of the things I want to make sure we understand when you're forced to have to, because there's going to be times when the parent is not around, the biological parent, and you have to discipline the child. The key for me is I don't discipline without an explanation now, me personally. When I discipline, they get it, but then after that while we sit down and we talk, we discuss what went wrong and what was the reason. So they have a basic understanding that this person, I understand he's doing this out of love. But also, your wife or your husband must be supported by you all. Don't interrupt or come and try to speak for the child while the parent is exercising discipline. It undermines your authority as well.
That's right.
So there are certain ways in which we should be more, just more adamant and consistent and committed. That's my thing. As long as you all are committed to building your relationship, the children eventually will grow into a healthy relationship.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
But it just takes time and it takes commitment from both parents. I want to thank you.
Thank you.
You all, and may Allah continue to bless you, the light of His understanding. I want to take this time also. This is always a plus for me, and I'm very thankful and appreciative of Allah allowing me this opportunity to speak before you. But also, I am grateful for my relationship with Brother Student Minister Willie Muhammad.
That's right.
He has been pivotal in my growing in Islam. So when you have individuals that are around you that Allah gives you in order to help you, you are forever in debt. So I thank Allah for this brother, and I've seen him consistently fight for the welfare of the believers. It is incumbent upon us to be appreciative to Allah for allowing us to have this type of brother amongst us and as a jewel. And so let's bring up our brother Student Minister William Muhammad.
Most holy name of Allah who appeared to us in the person of Master Muhammad. We thank Almighty God raising up the most humble and honorable Elijah Muhammad. We also thank Almighty God Allah for the most honorable, I said honorable Elijah Muhammad, for the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in those names, I'd like to give you all the greeting words of peace and paradise. We say it in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
We thank you all who are here, especially in the city of New Orleans. You know, New Orleans Saints are like a religion. And today they're battling their #1 arch enemy, Satan themselves. You know, our people are all geared up and everything. You know, and that's fine for people who want to engage into that. But you know, the subject that we're going to talk about today will aid you past this little four-quarter game that's going to take place, right? And on last week we talked about Muhammad fix my marriage. And normally when I try to prepare for a lecture, I think about some stuff and I wait for a certain energy or a certain vibe that I get. And I had some ideas that were throwing around. There was something I wanted to talk about, but it never developed in my mind mentally. And it wasn't until like late last night, I thought about our talk on last week, and I felt the energy, and it just said, go and continue what we talked about last week. So today is Muhammad Fix My Marriage, Part 2, right? So if you're sitting in here, brothers and sisters, if you're not married, I don't want you to tune out and say, well, this is not for me. I ain't married. And you know, some of us, because of the examples that we have seen, we are saying that we're not getting married. But if we develop that type of mindset, do you know you are preventing yourself from getting involved in a process that God created in order to help you and I become Him again? We don't look at, do you know there's a verse in the Bible, I didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, where they talk about as husbands, that if we don't treat our wives right, it can impact the ability of our prayers to be answered by God. Now I didn't say if you mistreat your girlfriend. I'm not saying you mistreat your girlfriend if you have one, because the natural state that God intended for man and woman to exist as relates to love and relationships is in a marriage. That's right. God never intended for us to deal with women and never make a commitment. And He never intended for you to give yourself to a man who has never made a commitment. You have men that are making a commitment where they'll go and take out a subscription to participate in fantasy football for 15 years. Wow. But don't want to be in a committed relationship.
15 months.
Right? We make commitments to all type of things, but we run from the place where God wants us, one of the places where He wants us to be committed. Right. In that process of that institution of marriage, brothers and sisters, it helps you and I develop the characteristics and qualities that we need to be better believers in God, but it also helps us to grow into that area where we can say, as Jesus said, when you see me, you see the Father. That's one of the reasons why it's so difficult. Yes. Because there's something in that process that God is using for the perfection of the human being. Right? Yes. So there were some things I wanted to talk about last week that I didn't get the opportunity to talk about. One of them was blended marriages, blended families. And I could have done some research and talk about blended families, where meaning if a husband and a wife come together, they have children from previous relationships, previous marriages, and they come together. I could have researched something, but I said I wanted to get somebody who can talk about it, who has actually experienced it. You know, in our lessons, which is given to us as Muslims once we recite, there's a problem in the lessons where it talks about how, compared to what the Caucasian had, he only had one book of mathematics, but Musa had 59,999 other books. And some of us, based upon our understanding, we may think that this is a man walking around with this amount of books. But if we have studied the teachings, we know that that number connects to a group of people that participated in an experiment that has shaped the world. But the principle that it is teaching us is that human beings are books. So there are people who are in our churches, there are people who are in our minds, there are people in our workplaces who have had unique experiences. And they have faced those experiences in a very sincere and honest way. And they have learned certain wisdom from that experience that if you and I just humbled ourselves and asked them, hey, I know you've been married for 20 years or whatever many years. Can you share with me 3 things that have made your marriage successful? Then you and I can draw from their experience, and it'll be as equal to us reading a book.
Yes, sir. Oh, that's right.
So I asked our brother to come forward because he's a book. And if you heard what he shared some very simple but yet significant and practical advice as it relates to blended family.
Yes, sir.
So that's why I asked our brother to come up. Because we can learn from one another. So as we get into what we talked about last week, I want to start off by reminding us about there were 4 things that I asked those who are married to do. And I'm bringing this up because I want us to get out of this mindset, whether you attend the church or whatever it may be, where we just get into this routine. It's Sunday, this is where I have to go, and I'm going to listen, I'm going to feel good, and then I'm going to leave and I'm going to continue my life. And sometimes we fall into that type of pattern just by accident.
Yes, sir.
Where it begins to be a routine and we forget that these are places where we're supposed to hear a message. And we're supposed to find principles in that message and then apply it to our lives.
That's right.
And then use it so we can begin to start improving our lives. It should not be just a place where you can come and clap and sing and bear witness, and then we don't take what we've heard to say, let me use it to try to better my life.
Yes, sir. That's right.
So I'm bringing this back up because I want us to get away from that type of practice. So there were 4 things that I mentioned. One was, as it relates to us being married, and even if you're in a relationship and you haven't gotten to this point yet where you want to marry a sister or marry a brother, maybe after practicing this with your current girlfriend or boyfriend, it may lead you to being married, right? One of the things we said, is speaking from perspective as a Muslim member in the Nation of Islam, is schedule some time with your spouse to sit down and say, on what day and time during the week will you and I sit down as a couple and listen to a lecture by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? Or read something from the Bible, or read something from the Quran, or read something from a book that would help you and I develop the skills you and I need to be successful in marriage.
That's right.
Now, you may be in the church. It may be Bishop T.D. Jakes. It may be Bishop Jamal Bryant. Whoever it is, whatever spiritual teacher that helps you, you and your husband needs to sit down and say, we're going to schedule some time on this day, and at this time, we're going to sit down for this amount of time, and we're going to listen, and we're going to discuss. The second thing we talked about, we also need to sit down with our spouses and create some rules of engagement. What do I mean by that? Sit down and say, these are 5 things we're going to do when we face a difficulty in our marriage. These are 5 rules we're going to conduct ourselves by when we engage into an argument. So then when we have those 5 or 10, however many rules you come up with, when that heated moment comes, when we see that we're getting away from rules that both of us agreed on, somebody can hit the stop button. And remind us that, hey, we both agreed that when we got into this heated discussion, we will not call each other out of our names.
That's right. That's right.
And now you have already gotten away from one of the 5 that we agreed on. See, a lot of times when we face something, if we go into that problem with a plan, we have a better opportunity of responding properly to it. A lot of times we make no plans at all, and we face an experience and we don't know what we're doing. And what we end up doing is responding to something from worldly experiences.
That's right.
That's right.
Now the rules of engagement that we have is what we saw on Love and Basketball. What we heard a rapper say.
Right.
Smack her in her mouth when her tongue talk slick. And we go off of that.
Right.
But we need to sit down None of you will watch football if they didn't have any rules in it.
That's right.
If the football team was allowed to come on the field smoking weed,
Go ahead, T.
drinking, doing whatever, it would take away from the sport.
That's right.
Even in boxing, they let them know that there are certain places you cannot throw a punch.
That's right.
You cannot hit below the belt. You cannot hit when you all have embraced each other and the referee is trying to break you all up and you swing a punch. You can't hit a boxer when they are on their way back to the corner. Is that right?
That's right.
But how many times do we violate that in our marriages? Where they say something that we didn't like, and now we know in our mind, I'm going to say this and it's going to hurt him. So we say something where we hit below the belt.
That's right.
Or we know that there's this insecurity that your husband has, and since he's showing me that he's not making me feel like I'm valuable, I'm gonna say this to him. And we say it for the purpose of cutting.
That's right.
And then we wonder why there's hell not under the earth, but hell in our houses. There is no mystery, God.
Right.
You can't just sit in here and say, well, this is what I'm going to do. No, sit down, write it out, plan it out, type it up and put it on the refrigerator, put it in the bedroom so we know these are our rules of engagement. You can do that when it comes with arguments, when it comes with handling finances, but we have to do it. The third thing, stop talking about how important communication is to a marriage and how a marriage or relationship suffers because of improper communication, and then you don't go get a book or read an article or go take a course that teaches you how to communicate.
That's right.
I always talk about how you meet people and they say communication is important to a marriage. But then when I ask them, when was the last time you read an article about communication? When was the last time you saw a YouTube video about 5 ways to improve your communication? We can't just talk about something being important and then just sit down and don't do anything to learn that skill.
That's right.
And many of our relationships are suffering because we have stopped growing in our skill set. So we are facing problems that are being impacted by the new developments of this society, and we're not learning the necessary skills to help us deal with it in this modern time.
That's right.
Did we not say in our lessons, quick thinking, fast movement, right?
Right.
Down to the modern times. Some of you all have been married, and you were married at a time where text messages didn't exist. You were married at a time where you just couldn't be at work and pick up a phone and not put and not have to put a quarter in it.
Right.
Now you can pick up a cell phone.
Yeah.
You can send an email. That means that modes of communication have advanced. There have even been new vocabulary words.
Yes, sir.
There are even new words that describe an emotional feeling that you have. But if we haven't grown with the times begin to suck out the energy and the love in our marriages. We have to constantly be growing. Is that right?
Yes,
You get people who work at banks, hospitals, schools, you can do whatever. Every so often in professions, people have to go through what is called professional development.
That's right. That's right.
Where you learn the new advances in your career.
Yes, sir.
The new way of doing things.
Yes, sir.
We have a new system by which we will accept deposits.
Yes, sir.
We have a new way how we are going to just handle customers.
That's right.
Or enroll customers into programs.
Yes,
so
sir.
people learn this. Well, if everybody else has professional development in their careers, what professional development have we taken as being married? Still trying to use old ways. And the ways may have worked then, but we need more skills now. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The other thing, the fourth, sit down and schedule some quality time activities with you and your spouse. Don't just say in our mind, well, we might do this. No, sit down. On this day, we are going to do this together. And don't make it one-sided, where we're only doing what the husband wants to do, or only doing what the wife wants to do. No, mix it up. Well, this week we're going to do whatever activity you select. This week we're going to do whatever activity you select. You will be amazed how little bitty small things like that would improve the quality of your home.
That's right.
Because when we don't take the time to sit down and say, let's plan an outing, our wives or our husbands, or your husbands, are sitting back looking at you taking the time to schedule other stuff for other things.
Yes, sir.
The wives are looking. Look how he can make sure he's going to go to the gym with the brothers. Look how he's going to make sure he's doing this. But husbands are also looking.
That's right.
Look how she can make time. She makes sure she does not miss a manicure appointment. I've seen her move hell and high water to make sure she goes to her hairdresser appointment. But when it comes to me, she can't schedule any time. We have to do this, right?
Yes, sir.
So those were some of the 4 things, right? Now here's the question. If you and your spouse heard this lecture from last week, and you did not take any time to start working on any of those 4 things, I have to ask the question, why not? What stopped you? Because if I was to ask everybody right now, do you agree that those 4 things could be helpful and beneficial to your relationship? Everybody will raise their hands.
That's right.
That's right.
But if you believe that, then how come what you saying out your mouth did not match your actions last week? And I want you to say in your mind, what stopped me from doing that? And whatever those things that come up, those are the things that strengthen your marriage. If you say procrastination, that's what's strengthening your marriage. If you say I was just too busy, that's what's strengthening your marriage. If it was fear, I don't know if I would ask him to sit down to do this, would he want to do it? Or I don't know if I ask her to sit down to do it, would she want to do it? That's what's strengthening your marriage. Yeah. Or if you doubt it, like, man, I hear Brother Willie talking all that stuff. I know this woman, I've been married to her for this amount of years. And I know this man, that ain't going to work. That's what's strengthening your marriage. Doubt. Right? Or maybe we may have not just had the desire to even want to do it. So how is it that we say we want to be married, but don't have the desire to do the things that would keep us married? That's hypocritical. That's hypocritical, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So whatever those things were that popped up in our minds, we need to go back, and that's between you and your mind, not you and your husband or your wife. That's the work that self-work that we have to do. And say, why did I allow this to stop me to do 4 things that can help make my home heaven on earth? So maybe I'm just going to start asking some people, what you did? Did you do this? Did you do that? So I'll transition from that. I want to share some words from the Muhammad in our midst, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, regarding marriage. This comes from an article titled, The Seriousness of Our Word. The minister says this: no word or oath is more important after our word to Allah, God, than the oath we give to one another in marriage. After our word to God, the next most serious thing is our oath to one another in marriage. He says a marriage vow is called a marriage contract.
Yes, sir.
And if you ever had a contract, there's something that you have to do, and there's something that the other person that you have the contract with has to do.
That's right.
Even if you're in a relationship, there's this idea we expect certain behaviors from one another. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
He says a contract is an agreement between 2 parties to do certain things or to fulfill certain requirements of duty. So the minister goes further. He says if we desire to have a successful marriage or to repair our marriage, we must clearly understand our duties. Sometimes you can be in a marriage and you may think your husband understands his duty. Or you may think your wife understands her duty. But we need to have these conversations to make sure that we have a clear idea of what we're expected to do. Stop assuming things. Stop assuming somebody knows something. But it's hard for us to have those type of discussions if we don't know how to communicate. If our communication is always about hurting one another, and fault finding.
That's right.
If our communication is always about I'm trying to win and show that I'm the dominant one in this household. See, that's a competition. That ain't a marriage.
That's right. That's right.
Right? So, do you know that every time you and I are dutiful to our spouse, it's like putting cash in your checking account?
Come on.
Some of our wives can't give us what we need because we haven't made any deposits.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Some of your husbands can't give you what you need because you have not made any cash deposits. So it's equal to you going up to the bank and you know that you don't have any money. And you write a check saying, I want to get this money back. And when the cashier says, sir, man, we don't have any money in your account, you get mad at the cashier. When you know you haven't done anything to put anything in the account that you can pull from.
That's right.
So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says this: every time we make our word bond, we breathe life into the institution of marriage. So if life is not in your marriage right now, I know we have that inclination to say, this is what my wife not doing. This is what my husband's not doing. But before we get there, ask yourself, where have I failed in my word?
Yes, sir.
Start there first. Look at it says the plank in your own eye. Before you look at the splinter in your wife or your spouse's eye, right?
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan also goes further in that same article, and he gives some great balanced advice on how we should handle situations when our spouses bring us news about us being defaulting our duty. Because some of us, we just waiting. Yeah, she's slipping right there. Let me tell her. Let me knock her down a few inches. A few inches. Oh, he look at him. Let me get him. He think he just rolling. Let me show him. And so we may be default in those duties. But is your goal to tear him or her down, or is it to inspire him or her to where they can be able to do the thing that will produce love in you for them? When our ancestors said you catch more bees with honey than vinegar. But some of us, we using vinegar, bleach, ammonia, and wondering why we ain't catching why the bees are running. No honey, right? It is interesting that they use that because in honey you have healing, right? So listen to what the minister says. Because some of us would take the minister's name. Some of us would take a verse from the Bible, a verse from the Quran, a saying from the Most High Elijah Muhammad, a saying from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It'll be equivalent to us writing that saying on a bat or a pipe, and we hit our spouses over the head with it.
That's right. That's right.
And we think that we feel good because we dress it up. The minister said, the Quran said.
That's right.
Instead of trying to use it in a way, to express it in a way where it inspires, where it encourages, where it motivates. So the minister says, some of us take offense at being reminded of our word because there are times that our desires lead us away from fulfilling our word. He says, so in the marriage, we have to be mindful of how we remind our mate of his or her failure or shortcoming and living up to our word. Read that again. So in marriage, we have to be mindful of how we remind our mate of his or her failure or shortcoming and living up to our word, for the reminder itself can produce friction. Right?
Yes, sir.
And this comes from this man. How does the minister remind us? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan can give the believers a whipping.
Right.
And we clapping and bearing witness. And you're like, man, this man just spanking y'all. But what's the difference? He does it in a way where it is communicated through love.
Yes. Right.
So it's one thing to recognize that he does that, or if your bishop does that, whoever does that. It's one thing to recognize that they do that, but it's another thing to understand that we just can't stay praising them for that skill and we never work to try to develop that skill ourselves. Minister Farrakhan can sure motivate us. Bishop so-and-so can sure motivate us. But when will you learn from their example? And where you can motivate the person that's in your home?
That's right.
The minister keeps it all the way real with this quote.
Yes, sir.
But before I get to that, his words made me think about in the Quran when it says that God sent Moses to Pharaoh and Moses spoke a kind word.
Right.
Here Pharaoh was oppressing his people. Pharaoh had executed a plot to kill the male, spare the female.
Yes.
Pharaoh was trying to keep them away from learning their true religion. But God still sent his prophet to them, and it said he spoke a kind word. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So what's the principle that if he can speak a kind word to Pharaoh, then how should you speak to your spouse? We talked about last week, if you were speaking to your spouse and it's mother this and mother that and be this and be that, you ain't reflecting God.
That's right.
I don't care how many rosaries you have around your neck.
That's right.
I don't care how many communions you have taken.
That's right.
I don't care how many prayers, salats you have made. If you get up from salat and 2 or 3 hours later you use a profanity with the woman or the man that God has given you, you ain't praying to God.
That's right.
Because evidently whatever that religious activity was, it didn't move enough on our heart to make us see who's in the house with us. Right?
Yes, sir.
So the minister goes further. Listen to what he says. Even if they may not bring it to us in the way that we like, that still does not give us the excuse of not working on, that does not give us the excuse to remain of neglecting our duty.
Yes, sir.
Right? He says this. However, if we are humble of heart, no matter how the reminder comes, if it is the truth, we must bow to the truth and act accordingly.
That's right.
So even if they bring it, they're still working in that area. Say, listen, I didn't appreciate the way you said it to me. Now I would appreciate if you do it this way the next time, but I have taken note on what you said and I'm going to work to get better.
That's right. That's
But
right.
oftentimes what we do is we deflect. Our spouses bring us something,
That's true.
and after they finish, we waiting. Yeah, you telling me this, but remember you ain't doing that.
That's right.
Or we try to use our neglect and our duty, we try to make our spouses responsible for it. Yeah, I would be able to do this if you did that.
That's right. Come on.
I'm just doing so much.
Right. You do.
That's why I can't do that. And when we do that, we're never looking at ourselves in a mirror and say that, yo, I need to get my stuff together.
Right.
We're still shifting the blame.
Yes, sir.
So another point the minister said. The young Mr. Louis Farrakhan said that man is the maintainer of the woman, and she is the consoler of the man. Now this goes to the believers in the Nation of Islam, but this goes to everybody who wants to have a marriage based upon the word of God. At some point in our lives, we have to come to an agreement and at peace with our decision to say, I am going to have a marriage that's going to go in accord with what God says instead of what the world says.
That's right.
See, some of us are starting to allow this extreme version of feminism to come into our homes. Some of us are starting to allow this chauvinistic and sexist attitudes to come into our marriages.
Yes.
And we use the word of God to be a chauvinist and a sexist tyrant.
That's right.
Right? Or some of us get to the point where we're into this thing where now we're questioning whether or not there should be certain roles and specific responsibilities in the marriage.
Fact.
God set this up.
Come on.
And if the world was so successful in marriages, there would not be 50% and growing divorce rates. So we have to understand and say that, yo, I'm going to live my marriage in accordance with what the most honored Elijah Muhammad taught us.
Come on.
And in our marriages, brothers and sisters, we have roles and responsibilities.
That's right.
There are certain things that men do, and there's certain things that women do.
That's right. That's right.
And there are some circumstances that come into existence where there may be some blending in certain roles. But when those circumstances are removed, we fall back to our responsibilities. Is that right?
That's right.
So the minister says this when he talks about the word console means to alleviate or lessen the grief, to lessen the sorrow or disappointment, to give solace or comfort, cheer up. That's what you're supposed to do for the man that's in your life.
Yes, sir.
Now, if we went to him and asked him, does your wife alleviate or lessen the grief? Does she? Does she lessen the sorrow? Does she lessen the disappointment? Right? Or do you add to the stress? Do you add to it? Do you add to the grief? Do you add to the disappointment? Right? Dear sisters, you must gain the knowledge that will allow you to learn how to properly console your husband. And some of you were blessed to grow up in a household where you saw grandma and she knew how to do it.
That's right.
Some of you have saw where mama knew how to do it.
That's right.
But the vast majority have not.
Right.
Because all you have seen your mother being negatively impacted by bad relationships.
Yes.
And so we don't realize that those patterns have not acknowledged and not dealt with, they are transferred from generation to generation.
Yes.
And you see it, right? Mama spoke crazy about daddy, then children start speaking crazy to daddy.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So I would suggest, because first, we can't begin to improve something that we haven't assessed to see where it's at right now. Because some of us can think, oh, my husband asked me if I'm a consoler, I know he's going to give me an 8. And your husband may be like, no, you missing. Because in your effort, you're still trying to console me the way you think I want to be consoled, but this is how I want to be consoled. Right?
That's right.
So sit down with your husband and ask him, how am I as a consoler? Give me a grade A, B, D, C, or F. And when he's saying it, stop trying to debate it. Just take it in, bite your tongue, and hear it, right? Then ask him, are there any specific things he would like you to do more that will provide him better consolation?
Yes, sir.
See, sometimes we want to serve people the way we want to serve them.
That's right.
Look at Burger King. Look at that theme. It says, have it your way. One time I would make breakfast for my daughters. I was trying to make eggs the way when I ate eggs. Had enough brown them to the brown to. I'm like, yo, y'all should like this. They're like, man, we don't eat. They're like, Dad, we don't like our eggs like that. Right. And one time I went to a bar where I'm trying to tell them how to cut my hair. He's telling me how this is how he's gonna do it. And I'm like, yo, man, I'm the customer. And guess what? I stopped going to him.
That's right.
We have to serve people the way that they want to be served.
That's right.
This is why I'm going to recommend a book to you. It's called The 5 Love Languages. Imagine if you were in your home with your wife, with your husband. He speaks Spanish and you speak Chinese. Y'all talking to each other but don't understand nothing each other is saying. So in this book, the man says that we have different love languages.
Yes, sir.
There are different actions or work things that need to be done that conveys love to me that may be different to my wife. Right?
Yes, sir.
But some of us are walking around, we don't even know our love language.
That's right.
So you can't even tell your husband how to show you or to convey love to you or interact in a way with you that will make you feel loved. Get the book. You get the book. You can go online right now and for free you can learn your love language. Right?
Yes, sir.
The other thing is this, sisters. Study your husband for the purpose of finding out how to please him. What does he like? I was in a city and a brother told me that this sister, she had noticed that her husband he kept making remarks like he saw entertainers, Anita Baker, whatever. He was like, that's a beautiful hairstyle that she had. And she had noticed he would go to a family function and he saw his sister man that, oh, I like that hairstyle. And it was the same hairstyle like Anita Baker and others. Some weeks past, that sister came home and guess what type of hairstyle she had? Like Anita Baker. Now that's something.
Yeah.
But she saw something that her husband wanted and she said, I'm going to try to get it. If we listen to each other, your husband tells you what he likes and what he dislikes. But sometimes because of the pain that we have caused one another, it's cloudy. It's foggy. Or we're just so hurt where there may not be any deposits in the bank. Well, I don't have it in me to try to give it to him.
That's real.
Right?
Yes, sir.
But study your husband and then ask him, give me some specific things. And if he's kind of vague, well, you know this, that, they'll stop him.
What you want?
Say, listen, you don't even know what you want, but how can I give you what you want and you don't know what you want?
That's right. That's right.
So we have to be clear, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You know I'm going to keep it balanced. I'm coming over here. Sisters, hurry up. Now, Mr. Lord's I said this, brothers. He said, drill sergeant. He said that men are the maintainers of women.
That's right.
And listen, sisters, don't get caught up. Look what the word maintain means. To provide for the upkeep or support of, to carry the expense of, to keep in existence or continuance, to preserve, to retain, to keep in due condition. Right? Nobody, if a person doesn't love you, they ain't doing that. So as a maintainer, you have to have love for her. Because you won't maintain that which you don't love. And you won't maintain that which you don't respect. And you definitely won't maintain that which you don't value. There's some of your tennis shoes, every time you wear them, you take them off, you wipe them off, you put them back in the box, and you put them neatly. Because you value them.
Yes, sir.
So that which you value, you take care of. So if she is saying that she doesn't feel like you are maintaining her to a proper way, maybe you need to look in your mind and say, what has disrupted my value of her in my eyes? And sometimes it may be because she has cut you so many times in arguments. But we're going to get to how to overcome that, right? See, what I've noticed as a husband, when it comes to maintenance, sometimes as men, we think that we have done our job just because we've been able to provide food, shelter, and clothing.
That's right.
So when they're when they're feeling not loved and all of this stuff, what we say, why is she complaining, man? We got a house, we got water, the lights not cut off, food on the table. I don't see what she's complaining about. When we say that about her like that, that means we have not really seen her in a proper view.
That's right.
That's right.
Remember the minister said that she is not the woman of man, she's the woman of God. So the essence of her, what really makes her feel valuable is not the material things that we give her. Now don't make no mistake, that does add. It does play a role.
Yes, sir.
But that's not the sum total.
Right.
Right.
And if it was, you would not see any of these athletes getting divorced.
That's right.
Because they got the money.
Yeah.
But many of them get divorced after they say the divorce rate is like 70% or 80%.
Wow.
That after they stop playing football or stop playing sports, when they come into the house, the divorce happens shortly after.
That's right.
Because now he has to live in the house with this woman that he normally saw a few times throughout the year. Now it's time to do that work. Now it's time to do those things that money can't really buy, but it takes something that's inside us. This is going to be a lot for us as maintainers. Y'all don't mind me getting into this, huh? Look at that, look at that, look at that. Here's some things that we can do. Y'all got to back me up, sister.
Yes, sir.
To make them feel loved. That help us to be better maintainers. Women need to know that they are loved.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes in our mind as men, we think that just because we're providing the material things, that she should know that. But sometimes they want to hear us say, baby, I love you.
That's right.
Now it needs to be a healthy balance. Don't go from just I love you, I love you, I love you, and you ain't doing anything. And the lights off, no food, no, keep it balanced. It needs to be words and it needs to be actions. And when you get that book 5 love languages, you may find out that some of them like to hear, they like to see more action than words. Some of them have gone to the point like, I've heard all that I love you stuff. Show me.
Right.
My license say Missouri. I'm from the show me state. Right? Second thing. Listen to what it says. In fact, the best ways to express how you feel are usually in simple, seemingly unimportant acts like giving her an unexpected hug or holding hands when you walk together. Some of us, brothers and sisters, never touch our wives until it becomes to be in the bedroom. Think about that. When was the last time you held her hand outside of that environment? When was the last time you hugged her outside of that environment? All of these things communicate to her that I am loved. Right?
Yes, sir.
Second thing, she needs understanding and forgiveness. It says she both wants and deserves the willingness to understand it and that we understand and forgive her, right? And there are also, even just the health wise, there are things that they start to experience just, what's the word I'm looking for? Just with hormones, right? Your changes that sometimes make them act in a certain way. And sometimes they may say something just out of bed. Their emotions are all over the place. But when that happens, they want to know that we can at least be able to grant it to forgive them, right?
Yes, sir.
And none of us are going to be successful in marriage if we don't know how to forgive.
That's a fact.
Trust me. The other part, they need real conversation. Don't let your conversations with your wife dwindle to nothing but talk about your children, your job, and the weather. It says if that happens, it could be a sign that your marriage is in real trouble. In fact, it is critical for couples to discuss their feelings and emotions on a regular basis. These deep conversations are the glue that will hold you together and create intimacy, create the intimacy married people desire. Right? If our communication is just on superficial things, not just basic stuff, but no conversation about how we feel about one another. In particular, how you feel about her. Y'all quiet. Is this happening? Here's the other thing. She needs quality time with her and to see us spending quality time with our children. Right?
Yes, sir.
And remember I said this, and listen what they say. Having quality time with your wife and children isn't something that just happens. Meaning you have to plan this. We going around trying to save the world. We're going to resurrect every black man, every black woman out here with the final call, sister queen, sister this, sister that. But then you got a wife at home. When the last time you referred to her as a queen?
Teach, brother.
When the last time you talking about we're going to do this for the children in the neighborhood? Have you done it for the children in your house?
That's right. That's right.
Don't they deserve it?
That's right.
So it says you have to make these moments of connection happen by arranging for them and then following through. Because what they see when they see us do that, that communicates to them that she and your children are valuable.
That's right.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Skip to another one. We always talk about this. We need to improve our listening skills. It says it is really disheartening for a wife to share her thoughts and feelings with her mate and then realize he didn't actually listen to her.
Wow. Yes.
Your wife wants you to not only listen with your ears, but to listen with your heart. Besides hearing the words she speaks, it is important to be open to what your partner has to say. And listen to what research says. According to research, men who respect their wives' opinions have a much happier marriages. But you can't respect her opinion if you don't respect her.
That's right.
You can't respect her opinion if you don't respect her intellect. You can't respect her opinion if you think that what she says is not of value and is stupid. And if we constantly tell her what she's saying is stupid, then how long before she's going to start actually feeling stupid?
Right.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And we go and listen to everybody else. Respect everybody else's opinions.
That's right.
Respect the peaceful people's opinions at work. Respect the people's opinions in the street. Then when you come home to the woman that provides for you and your family, you can't respect her opinions.
Wow, sir. Good question.
The next one. She needs affection and kindness.
Yes, sir.
How often do you say please or thank you or give your spouse an unexpected kiss? Unfortunately, some married couples forget that being kind to and affectionate with one another are the keys to a successful marriage. They help feed the relationship and keep it strong. It says, in fact, affection and kindness may be even more important once you get married. Research shows that the frequency which you and your partner express and receive affection is directly related to your commitment and satisfaction.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Research, meaning this has been tested and tried. Here's another part. She needs to see us share household and child rearing responsibilities.
Yes.
Some of us read what it says in the lessons when it talks about the MGT, that their role is to rear the child, and we think that that means that we don't have anything to do with children. And it doesn't mean that,
Come on.
right? And it says shared households. Now, as a balance as it relates to that, if sisters, your husband works enough where you are to stay at home, and you don't have to work, you don't have to buy everything you need, all he has created an environment for you to take care of the home, then you can't expect a man that's out there providing that, now you want him to come home and take care, share responsibilities, when he's providing for that. So that's why I tell single sisters, when you say I want to stay at home, understand what that comes with.
Come on.
That's that right.
Good teacher.
Now, if she is working and helping you, now you play a responsibility.
Yes.
Because she is doing more than what she should have to do. So now some of those responsibilities should be shared.
That's right.
Would it hurt for you to fold the clothes sometimes?
No.
Wash the dishes sometimes? It wouldn't. If she is working and helping to contribute to the household, we have to share. And that has been said by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan himself.
That's right.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Just to give y'all some motivation, brothers. It says, research, just keep it 100, this is what it says. You may benefit in the bedroom too, since studies show women feel more sexually attracted to partners who pitch in. They're gonna be doing chores, they're gonna be doing chores now. Here's another part. It says, women need a day off now and then. They have done studies that even women who stayed at home, they say that the work that they do is almost like 2 or 3 jobs.
That's right.
Sometimes it helps to say, you know, baby, I know you normally cook, don't worry about that, we're gonna go out to eat.
Yes.
Or I'm gonna get the children together, we're gonna clean house. Take this money, go get your feet done.
Hey, mom.
Go get a massage. Go do something. Just go hang out with the sisters. Go do something. I got you. Every now and then. Because the mind of a woman is always running.
Yes.
What's the next thing to do? What's this? What's this? The children is, the children is. And sometimes they need the opportunity to unplug and give themselves some self-care. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So those are some of the many things that we need to do to be better what? Maintainers.
Right.
Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Almost to the end. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said this. He said, the disrespect of marriage as a basic institution instituted by Allah God himself cannot lead to the respect of the woman, the respect of children, and the respect of the family life. So what you and I all have to do, we have to show greater respect to marriage. As married men, you should be sitting around talking negatively about marriage.
That's right.
Now I've made the worst mistake.
Man.
I should have stayed single. And what we really saying is that I should have stayed in an environment that did not help me get in the process to grow and become God. Same thing with you, sisters. Don't speak negatively about marriage.
Right.
Right.
Especially when both of us know we have not been doing the things and learning the skills we need in order to better our marriage.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Now, none of us are perfect,
Right.
and we mess up. But look at the grace of God that he revealed to his servant, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the 8 steps of atonement.
Teach, Brother Willie.
Listen to what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said. These 8 steps of atonement can bring our marriages back from death.
Come on now.
Lord.
You praise God for you believing that he raised Jesus from the dead.
Come on.
You praise Jesus for how he raised Lazarus from the dead. Well, God's servant today said that these 8 steps can do the same for your marriage. That it can bring it from the dead. When would your marriage have its Easter celebration?
That's right.
When would your marriage be able to say, Lazarus, come forward?
Come on.
And these are the 8 steps. He says, 1, someone must point out the wrong.
That's right.
2, someone must acknowledge the wrong. 3, confess the fault first to Allah God, then to those who are offended. 4, repentance, a feeling of remorse or contrition or shame for the past conduct which was wrong and sinful. These are the steps. As Muslims, we don't supposed to just say, I apologize and we keep it moving. No, we're supposed to go through these steps. 5, atonement, meaning to make amends and reparations for the wrong. And I heard somebody say the best apology is a changed behavior.
That's right.
Right.
You can't say you apologize and you're doing the same thing. You apologize and you keep doing things that stimulate or bring up old issues.
That's right.
6, forgiveness
Yeah.
by the offended party. Look at how balanced this is.
That's right.
If a person goes through 1 through 5, now the person who was offended has a responsibility.
That's right.
Now, can you look within your heart and forgive this
That's
person?
right.
Or are you just going to say, no, I'm going to hold a grudge.
Man. Teach, brother.
I'm just going to be upset. And when you do that in this process, when you refuse to forgive a person that has done sincerely 1 through 5, then it falls on you.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
You can no longer keep blaming one another. Right? It says forgiveness by the offended party, which means to cease to feel offense and resentment against another person for the harm done.
Man.
And he says after that is reconciliation and restoration, meaning becoming friendly and peaceful again. 8 is the perfect union with Allah God and with one another.
That's right, brother.
But most of us have offended one another, and either we said sorry or we just kept it moving.
That's right.
But if there are old issues that every time they're brought up in the present, we need to sit down and go through this atonement process.
That's right.
And say, I apologize. And I'm not going to do that again. Is everybody all right?
Yes, sir.
And I want to do 2 more things. Something came on my mind today, and it said, research and see if there's any scientific evidence out there that talks about successful marriages. And I came across something where they have scientists who have looked at marriages, and now they have done studies where in one survey, in one research, the man said this: they were able to predict a 94% success rate with marriages that would end in a divorce, which would drive just by watching a couple interact for 30 minutes. They did a study and they said within 30 minutes, at a 94% success rate, they could say that marriage right there is going to end. And I thought about how the Most High Elijah Muhammad, sometimes when he talked about gods or gods, he said scientists.
Right.
So to let us know that a God is also a scientist.
That's
Right? And listen to what they said, how they could determine. He said this scientist found out was this, that successful couples have a 5 positive to every 1 negative interaction. For every negative interaction, there are 5 positive interactions in their marriage. So it says this, so it is very important that you manage the negative, and you maximize the positive interactions in your relationships. So it goes further. They said the following: there's going to be conflict in every relationship. Research has shown that it isn't conflict itself that causes relationship problems. It is how the conflict is dealt with. Remember I talked about how we have to have rules of engagement?
Right, sir.
It says managing conflict is especially important in the first 7 years of marriage. It says, interestingly, negative effect during conflict predicted. It said in the first 7, I'm not worded right. In the first 7 years, if a couple did not know how to manage the negative experiences, they ended, the marriage ended. Then they said, past the 7 years, if there was a couple that lacked doing things that expressed positive interactions, they will later have a divorce. Right? Then it says this, he gave some examples, how we can overcome this. Start with a complaint, not a criticism. You know, there's a difference between a complaint and a criticism, right?
Yeah.
Conflicts that begin with criticism rather than a complaint are predictive of unhappy marriages. Complaints are specific, this is the difference. Complaints are specific and they don't attack the other person's character. Example of a complaint. You forgot to take out the garbage out yesterday. Do you have time to take it out now? A criticism. Criticisms attack the person's character. You always forget to take out the garbage. You are worthless. Now we know what's taking place in our houses. Are we giving complaints or criticisms? Right? One study found that you can predict the outcome of a 15-minute conversation by looking at just the first 3 minutes of the conversation. 96% of the time. They said just the first 3 minutes. If it's all filled with criticism, then you know where that marriage is going well. Because who wants to be in a marriage if somebody keeps telling you you're worthless?
That's right.
And after a while, you begin to start asking, if I'm so worthless, then why are you married to me?
Really? Right.
So let me do you a favor and say, let me bounce. Right? Who wants to be in a marriage where you're always being accused of cheating when you're not?
Really?
Think about that. That's why Allah in the Holy Quran says when you accuse somebody of adultery, you should have a certain amount of witnesses. But sometimes we accuse our spouses of stuff that they have not done. And there's nothing more frustrating for a husband or a wife to be accused of something when they are committed to an individual. Right?
That's right.
He says, here are 4 horsemen that they said we need to avoid in marriage. Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Contempt says is the most destructive of the 4 deadly horsemen. It is the expression of disgust such as eye rolling, mockery, and sneering. Defensiveness is trying to rationalize some sort of behavior, deflecting. Right? Arguing rarely resolves a conflict. It usually makes it worse. But we're trying to rationalize why we did something. Then it says stonewalling. Stonewalling is when one person shuts down, they don't even acknowledge the other person's presence. Try our best to avoid all of these negative interactions. Some people just go weeks without saying anything outside of Assalamu alaikum. weeks. And that's stonewalling. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Then he said, here's another thing, accepting influence. And what they mean by this, they said when one does not accept the influence, meaning you're not willing to be persuaded by the other. Meaning if your spouse comes to you with something that's affecting them, no matter how much they tell you, like, listen, this doesn't make me feel loved, you refuse to budge. I'm still going to do it anyway. I don't care how much you don't like it. It kills the marriage, right? Repair attempts. It says 84% of newlyweds who were high on the 4 deadly horsemen but had effective repair attempts were stable. Meaning you have to have some effective means on how to repair your marriage. 8 steps of atonement.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Look what it says about forgive. Forgive your spouse for the mistakes. Forgiving your spouse for their mistakes significantly improves the relationship. Right? It goes further. The important thing is to communicate respectfully and try to find win-win outcomes. If you two are angry at a given moment, wait until you can talk later. Get out of trying to have this I win, you lose. How can we both fix this so that this marriage can be successful? Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Now these are some things of how they said to maximize the positive. Remember they said have 5 positive interactions for every one, right?
Yeah.
One, it says show appreciation. But I found this interesting. It says when an individual feels more appreciated, they are more likely to show appreciation. So if your spouse is not showing appreciation, maybe it's because they don't feel appreciated. It says this is probably the single most important thing you can do. Start by thinking about 3 things that you appreciate about your spouse every day. And it then says find some time to tell them how and why you appreciate them. Y'all okay?
Yes, sir.
It says 1, engage, I'll give you a copy of this article, engage in a variety of new activities together. Support each other. Responding to positive news. Talk less about I and more about us, we, and our.
Yes.
Right? It says laugh more, right? Then it also says put away the cell phone. The presence of a cell phone had negative effects on the closeness, connection, and conversation quality. How many of us when our spouses are talking as we are on the cell phone? Yeah, I'm listening. Right? So these are just some things that's out there, brothers and sisters, and I will close with this one. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been married for 65 years. And I'm not saying married and not happy. He's been happily married for 65 years. Don't you think that that is justification to show that he's a man that's worthy of our ears and our attention?
Yes, sir.
That man, that some of our parents are 65. The man has been married for 65 years. So shouldn't you say, let me go and hear what he has to say about marriage?
Yes, sir.
Let me hear what he has to say about how to improve relationships. So start there. And I guarantee you, if you spend time listening to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on marriage, it'll begin to open up your eyes and we'll begin to start seeing what we need to do. And then we can say that Muhammad has fixed our marriage. Thank you all.